In 1992, a millionaire named Countess Carlotta Liebenstein passed away and left a fortune of almost $100 million. Not to a grieving family, not to a charitable foundation, but to a dog. And somehow, in a story involving private jets, offshore accounts, and a sprawling international real estate empire, the dog wasn't even the craziest part. It became a global phenomenon. It inspired documentaries and fooled millions of highly intelligent people across the world. We were all sold the legend of the world's richest dog. But the truth hiding behind the headlines is a masterpiece of deception, and infinitely stranger than the myth. The story, exactly as it was broadcast to the world, began with a tragedy in the quiet shadows of European aristocracy. In 1992, the reclusive German noblewoman Countess Carlotta Liebenstein passed away. She had no remaining relatives. Her beloved son had tragically taken his own life years earlier after a long, quiet struggle with depression. In her final days, pacing the sprawling halls of her estate, the grieving countess had only one companion left in the world, a German shepherd named Gunther III. When the will was read, the international media gasped. The countess had bequeathed her entire fortune, originally estimated as around $80 million, directly to her dog. The terms of the trust were absolute and legally binding. Gunther III and his subsequent descendants were to be cared for in the exact manner to which they had become accustomed. A board of trustees was appointed to manage the wealth, ensure the bloodline continued flawlessly, and guarantee that the dog lived a life of uninterrupted luxury. Over the years, through shrewd investments in property and markets, that initial $80 million ballooned into an empire worth hundreds of millions. It was the ultimate fairy tale. But how exactly does a dog spend $100 million? If your pet just inherited $100 million, what's the very first ridiculous luxury you're buying them? Drop it in the comments. The lifestyle that followed was not just luxurious, it was a spectacle deliberately designed to mock the very concept of wealth. Gunther IV, the heir to the original beneficiary, did not simply eat premium kibble. He dined on gold-flaked steaks prepared by a private chef, served on silver platters, and delicately garnished with caviar. He did not travel in a customized carrier in the cargo hold of a commercial flight. He flew across the globe in a private jet, stepping onto the tarmac surrounded by an entourage of handlers, security personnel, and public relations managers. The real estate portfolio managed in his name was staggering. Gunther's trust purchased luxury villas in Italy and sprawling, sun-drenched estates in the Bahamas. Most famously, the trust acquired a Miami mansion previously owned by Madonna, purchasing the Mediterranean-style compound for millions of dollars. The dog slept in the pop star's former master bedroom. An entire staff was employed exclusively to cater to his whims. There were obedience trainers, specialized veterinarians, and a rotating cast of young, attractive models hired simply to socialize with the animal and keep him entertained by the pool. It was an existence that transcended extravagance. It was absurd. Every new property acquisition, every gold-leafed meal, every paparazzi photograph of a German shepherd wearing designer sunglasses on a yacht made the public think the exact same thing. This is absolutely insane. But as the spectacle grew louder, a much quieter question began to echo in the background. If you looked closely at the pristine facade, fractures began to appear. Journalists who tried to dig into the aristocratic background of the benevolent Countess Carlotta Liebenstein ran into a wall of silence. In a world where European noble lineages are documented over centuries, meticulously tracked through wars and revolutions, there were no birth records for the Countess. There were no property deeds in her name prior to the creation of the trust. There was no obituary in the local German papers. When reporters asked the dog's handlers for details about the Countess's deceased son, the answers were vague, shifting slightly with every telling. The timeline of the inheritance seemed to warp depending on who was giving the interview. Even the name of the dog changed inconsistently across official press releases. Why did the story keep mutating? Why could no one locate a single authentic photograph of the Countess? And why, when the global press tried to confirm the most basic, fundamental facts of the greatest inheritance story in modern history, did they find absolutely nothing? Because there was nothing to find. The Countess Carlotta Liebenstein never existed. Her tragically deceased son never existed. The aristocratic bloodline, the grief-stricken will, the German fortune. Every single word of it was a complete and total fabrication. When this revelation finally pierced the public consciousness, the reaction was pure disbelief. How could a story this massive, broadcast by reputable news networks around the world for decades, be entirely fake? Who had the resources to buy Madonna's mansion, charter private jets, and hire an army of staff just to maintain an elaborate lie about a dog? The answer was hiding in plain sight the entire time, standing right next to the dog in almost every photograph. So, who was actually writing the checks? His name is Maurizio Mian. He is an Italian entrepreneur and the heir to a massive pharmaceutical fortune. Mian's family had developed a highly successful drug for osteoporosis, generating staggering wealth that needed to be managed, sheltered, and invested. But Maurizio Mian was not a quiet, conservative heir content to sit on a board of directors. He was an eccentric. He was a man deeply interested in media manipulation, social experiments, and the theatre of the absurd. Gunther was not a beneficiary. Gunther was a brand. By inventing the fictional Countess, Mian created a flawless financial and public relations vehicle. The dog became a legal entity, a corporate mascot, and a brilliant piece of offshore tax planning all rolled into one. But for Mian, it was more than just a wealth management strategy. It was a grand, ongoing social experiment. He used the dog's supposed wealth to fund bizarre lifestyle groups, hiring young, attractive people to live together in the Gunther estates under strict observation. He was attempting to engineer a utopian society centered around beauty, science, and a German shepherd. He had manufactured one of history's most successful modern myths to fund his own private reality. But why did the rest of the world buy into it so easily? The genius of Mian's deception was not in the legal paperwork or the financial routing. It was in his perfect understanding of human psychology. He recognized a fundamental truth about modern society. The public has an insatiable, almost pathological fascination with extreme wealth. We want to believe that the world is a place where a dog can inherit a fortune, because it confirms our deepest suspicion that wealth is inherently absurd and arbitrarily distributed. The media, desperate for ratings and clicks, fell in love with the unbelievable narrative. A dog eating caviar on a private jet is a flawless television segment. It requires no deep analysis, no investigative rigor, only a camera and a willing audience. Journalists repeated the myth because the myth was infinitely more entertaining than the reality of an Italian pharmaceutical heir sheltering his family's money. In the era before social media fact-checking, Mian proved that if you feed the press a story that perfectly aligns with what the public wants to hear, they will not just print it, they will defend it. The repetition itself created the truth. Could a lie this big ever be fully unraveled? The legend of the Millionaire dog experienced a massive resurgence when the Netflix documentary series explored the depths of Mian's deception. The series peeled back the layers of the hoax, exposing the non-existent Countess and dragging the bizarre, cult-like social experiments into the harsh light of global streaming. It showed the world the pharmaceutical money, the tax havens, and the strange, eccentric mind pulling the strings behind the dog's throne. But the documentary also revealed something far more complex. Even when the trick was exposed, the illusion did not completely shatter. Maurizio Mian's enterprise had operated in the space between reality and performance for so long that the lines remained permanently blurred. Some elements of the Gunther empire are still intentionally opaque. The people involved speak in riddles, half-truths, and theatrical proclamations. Even today, separating the verified financial facts from Mian's performance art is a nearly impossible task. The hoax had survived for so long that it had effectively become its own reality. The story of Gunther the German Shepherd is often told as a quirky footnote in the history of the ultra-rich. But look closer, and it is a mirror reflecting our own collective gullibility. For decades, the world looked at a dog in a private jet and thought the most unbelievable part of the scenario was the inheritance. The truly unbelievable part was the audience. Millions of highly intelligent people were presented with an absolute cartoon, and because it was wrapped in velvet and funded by real millions, they accepted it as documented history. It proves a quiet, unsettling rule about the world we live in. Sometimes the greatest deceptions aren't pulled off by hiding the evidence. They're accomplished by writing a script the audience is desperate to read.